Gary Parrish here with Purdue coach Matt Painter. Matt, I appreciate your time. We're going to get to Purdue basketball going forward in a second. I want to start with what I'm most excited about, and that's a man you developed, recruited, and turned into a two-time National Player of the Year, is now living in my hometown and is projected to be the starting center for the Memphis Grizzlies. How interesting is it to you, after spending years telling anybody who would listen, this guy can play in that league, to now look up and he's quite literally in the betting markets, the favorite to be Rookie of the Year? People are now finally believers.
Yeah, well, I think it starts with, where he came from. He played his first year of organized basketball as a sophomore in high school. His senior year in high school, he backs up Mark Williams, plays about 10 minutes a game, if that sometimes. And to be able to come to our place in COVID and some days it was good. Some days, he couldn't catch right away as well. Even though he had good hands, it was just the confidence. A lot of people that you recruit that you have, they just have confidence throughout their whole career. Just as a little kid playing and growing into middle school and into high school. But for him, he didn't come with bad habits. That was the thing for him. And some of the things that he had to do, like he had to post. He had ball screen D. He had post D. He had to learn a lot of plays, but the simplicity of all of it, once he could get good position and trust his post moves, now just getting stronger, getting quicker, learning the nuances of the game. But he was so easy to coach. He played so hard, and basketball is important to him. So they're getting, obviously, a really good player, but they're also getting someone that his passion is the game of basketball.
I've told you this before, just being around him down in Memphis and then being around the other guys and listening to them talk about him, it seems to me that people are forever Zach Edey skeptics just because it looks so unusual, until they're on the court with it, and then it feels right. Like John Morant is fired up right now about Zach Edey setting him screens.
He should be, because he's a great ball screen guy. He's a great roll guy. He can rebound out of his area. He's physical, but he's about winning. So, when he gets doubled or things happen, he's become a really, really good passer. And so, I just think he's going to take off. I think he's going to have a great NBA career.
I was thinking earlier, there aren't many people in the history of the world who have ever coached and then lost a two-time National Player of the Year. This is not a normal thing.
Yeah.
We're about to see a new version of Purdue basketball.
Right.
I know it's going to be good, or I trust it's going to be good. What's it going to look like?
Well, I think when you can start with 3 returning starters from the Final Four, it's a good place, right? We have the preseason Big Ten Player of the Year in Braden Smith. The 2 toughest spots, in my opinion, to get quality play is the center and the point guard spot. So that, he dominates the ball for us. Even with Zach Edey, we still played a lot of ball screen into post-ups. So I think that starts with him, Fletcher Lawyer and Trey Kaufman-Wren and Caleb First, their experiences. So we have some experiences where other people have more experienced guys that they're trying to develop and mesh in. We take the high school guys and just try to do it traditionally like everybody used to do it. So, we're excited about it, but also we also try to organically let it happen. What's our strengths here? What's the best thing for us to do? Play through Trey Kaufman-Wren, play through Braden Smith, play through Fletcher Lawyer, or is it some of the younger guys? And I really think it's going to be a balance of a lot, but I also think our playing through ball screens will be the one thing that'll start with.
I think it's fascinating the way you're running and maintaining your program, because you are still mostly doing it in a traditional way. Right. I've talked to other coaches today who simply say you can't do that anymore. Right. Obviously, you are evidence that you can, but the difference of opinion is out there. Just talk to me about how much the landscape has changed and you trying to stay committed to a certain way of doing this thing while the whole world is swirling around you.
Yeah, well, I think if I was at a different school and in a different environment, or I was starting over, I'd be doing the same thing they are.
Right.
And I think if they were in my position at Purdue with high academics and me going into my 20th year, that's why all those variables are the reason why they're doing it, and all those variables are the reason why I'm doing it. And you want consistency more than anything. And you can't be consistent if you can't keep guys. Or you have to be at a school that can consistently get guys every single year. So, the whole name, image, and likeness landscape is different for everybody. We're hoping to get some commonplace here with this settlement in the guardrails to kind of even some things up for everybody, because that's what we want. We want to be able to have that fair shot, to be able to have a team, to grow a team. But for us, we just have to keep recruiting. And keep going after guys that fit at Purdue, even if we miss those guys. It's better to take a guy that fits at your place, and then if you lose him and now you go to that next guy, it's probably better not to get that guy if you don't think it's that great of a fit, because when you miss on a guy, he can beat you twice a year, but when you take a guy that shouldn't be in your program, he beats you every day. So
you mentioned Trey Kaufman-Renn. You've got Braden Smith there. These are, particularly with Trey, he's playing behind the best player in the country.
Right.
It might be hard at a different program to hold on to that guy, but it does seem like you've established a culture where people do seem to understand that there's a certain order to this, and we'll get to you when we get to you.
Yeah, I think it's the balance of our academics. I think it's also the development and each guy getting better. We've redshirted some guys, and I think people are more scared to do it now, which I think it makes more sense to do it now. But I think I stay in the minority with that thought. But Trey Kaufman-Renn is a guy that came in and redshirted right away, and Zach staying, hindered, his volume of how we use him on the offensive end. But he knows it was coming. He knew Zach staying one more year here was okay. He just couldn't stay 2 more years. But no, it's hard. You get down to that point, and we just try to talk it out and be honest with them and say, here's where you are. Here's where we think we're going. But you just got to keep plugging. But he's primed to have a great year. He's a really good guy, and he's a good player.
A little more than a year ago, we do the Candid Coaches series at CBSSports.com, and we asked coaches to identify the best coach in the country who has yet to make a Final Four. You were the leading vote getter by a significant margin. You're not eligible for that anymore. You've been to a Final Four now. Is it a sense of relief, a sense of joy? Does it change anything? Did you ever feel that pressure? When is he going to break through?
Yeah. I wouldn't say I felt it. You just want it for your fans.
Right.
You want it for your players. They deserve it. It's almost guilt when we did go to a Final Four. As my first interview was on the radio with Robbie Hummel. Yeah. And, both of us are sitting there crying. He's happy for us, and I'm feeling guilt that he couldn't get there. And that was a tough day, and but you can't have enough people in your program that care, and he cares about our program, and but no, there's a little bit of everything. There's definitely relief, but you can't let that relief get you away from having an edge about you to try to get back there and win the national championship. We still didn't finish the season with a win, and that's the ultimate goal.
Sometimes I hear coaches, they'll look back on, say, a Final Four loss or a championship game loss, and they'll say it's a missed opportunity, or they'll say, I think if you talk to Tom Izzo about the time he played Carolina in a championship game, he'd say, they just had a better team and better players, and that was tough. How do you look back on that night?
Well, it's probably the best defensive team we've faced maybe ever since I've been at Purdue. We wouldn't change anything. We're the only team in the tournament that kept them out of transition. We had our turnovers under 10. They have defenders at every spot. And so we got Zach 25 shots. He's 15 for 25. And if we played again, I'd try to get him 35 shots. I would go to him even more, because what they were doing was just taking our threes away. Right. I don't know how we could, with the way we were orchestrating things, I don't know how we could function to get those shots when they were taking that away from us, and their ability to do so. You get a kick out of people saying, well, why didn't you do that? And you're like, well, obviously you don't understand basketball. Right. Danny had it rolling, but from a defensive standpoint, they just shut our other guys down. We had to be a little bit better offensively and be more efficient, and then we had to be better defensively. We had to create some points for ourselves, and they were just living in the paint way too much on offense.
I don't want to bring up a sore subject, but I'm interested to get your perspective on it. When you guys lose in the championship game, that makes it 9 straight losses in title games since Michigan State won the championship in 2004, the Big Ten. This is a number that gets thrown out a lot. Hadn't won a championship since Tom Izzo. Is there an explanation for that? Because it's not like you guys have been there as a league a lot. Right. And then it just hasn't happened. Yeah. Is it just randomness of it, or is there some explanation?
I would think you need an explanation if you weren't getting to the Final Four at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, you're getting there. Obviously, we've been to the championship game 9 times since then. I didn't realize the number was that high. But we've had a lot of success as a conference, a lot of success. We just haven't been able to finish the play and be able to get that win.
Is that something – coaches in the league are even aware of, talk about?
I don't think so, because
Right.
I never heard that stat.
Okay.
We're aware of the big picture of not winning it. I didn't know it was that many times being in a championship game, which is a positive and a negative, right? You're getting there. Like I always talk about winning a Big Ten championship. You got to put yourself in position to win it before you win it.
Right.
Like you just can't sit there and then all of a sudden you're 4 games out the first week of March and say, hey, like let's win a Big Ten championship. Like it's over.
Right.
Like it's you got to get there and put yourself with 2-3 games to go in the league where you're in that position. When we're putting ourselves in that position, you know, we're just not getting that last win.
Before I get you out of here, I want to ask you about Braden Smith. He's obviously been terrific for you after being somewhat unheralded, relatively speaking, on the national stage coming out of high school. I've heard some people say he's about to take off in the absence of Zach Edey.
Yeah.
I've heard other people suggest things will get more difficult in the absence of Zach Edey.
Yeah.
What's the truth?
Well, I think they're both right, because when you have the responsibility that he's had for us and then you still have, now more attention will be to just take the ball out of his hands. And so I think that's what's going to be so important for us, is to be able to put a team together of skill when you really want to take the ball out of his hands, how we move the basketball. But he's fabulous, man. He's the best point that I've been around. Like, he can manipulate the defense with his eyes. You know, his passing, it just really sets people up. But now he understands he has to score more for us too. So just trying to get him to be as aggressive as possible and lead our team.
I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Good luck this season.
Yep.